Hi everyone, it's Gary Nicholson here for the Mountain Weather Information Service. This is your planning outlook video updated on Tuesday the 30th of January. Now, quite a changeable pattern over the next week or so, with generally cold air across the country, freezing levels often down at 500 or 600 metres or sometimes lower, with brief incursions of milder air just coming through. But I think the general message is a chilly one, and with showers often of snow and hail coming down to lower levels, and the risk of thunder on some days, and throw into the mix as well gale force winds too. So not exactly a pleasant story. Let's try and find some weather windows in there. This is the temperatures first of all. This is at 850 millibars. That's at around 4,500 feet in the atmosphere. And this is through Wednesday. Values at that level at -5 or below. And freezing levels around 400-500 metres or lower right the way across the country. And those freezing levels will stay down 500 metres or so into Thursday as well. And not too much change of those temperatures on higher levels. Now for Friday, less cold air begins to nudge its way in from the Atlantic, temperatures just lifting somewhat, and as the day goes on, it may well be that it will lift just briefly to freezing or above, even on the higher tops, as a warm sector just moves its way through. That's quickly moved out of the way though as we go overnight into Saturday, as the next cold front will clear through and that colder air mass comes back round from the northwest, and we see freezing levels by Saturday back down to around 500 metres or so, and values around -5 on the higher tops. Tricky then how that fares through into Sunday. I think generally cold is the message, with just a hint of trying to nudge less cold air again back into the far west by the end of the day. It may struggle to get in though by this stage. We may well end up going sort of back round in a circle really, where less cold air comes in briefly and then colder air once again through next week tries to spill back in from the west and northwest. It's essentially a battle of the air masses really, and it's what we call the polar maritime air mass that will generally hold sway. That's one that comes in from the North Atlantic and can have its origins around Greenland or northern Canada, hence its inherently cold nature. And Wednesday's chart has got that strong west to northwesterly flow across the country. Gale force winds are pretty widely, some squally gusts coming through, and showers most frequent across those western and northwestern regions. Snow and hail at times constant, with that risk of thunder in there as well. Cloud bases will vary, generally highest and fewest showers towards more eastern regions. Now for Thursday, it's that northwesterly wind that's with us, and it's still up to gale force and could be that way much of the day, and a severe wind chill factor then where you're exposed. Showers that focus more towards northern Scotland, the Northwest Highlands, coastal mountains in the west, and also into North Wales coming in off the Irish Sea. One or two areas of showers may just get into the Western Pennines and into Cumbria, but generally more central areas down from southern Scotland southwards staying drier for longer. A few clusters of showers may just get into the eastern borders over from the showers over the North Sea. Now Friday looks as though, on the latest modelling, is a better day. Earlier in the week it was looking a more pessimistic story for Friday. Basically the next fronts are a bit slower to come in, they're not quite as developed, and it looks as though we're into a ridge of higher pressure that is in temporarily. Any showers that will have been around from Thursday becoming fewer and further between and being dragged away out over the North Sea, to be replaced by the air that's coming in more from the Atlantic, which is slightly less cold, as we saw, and fronts trying to come in. And it may well be a day that does deteriorate quite rapidly across the West Highlands, timing somewhat uncertain, but at the risk of some snow turning to rain at lower levels as those fronts do come in, and wind strengthening again towards gale force. But there could just be a window through Friday daytime where you stay dry and bright, perhaps just the West Highlands just to watch for that deterioration. Now overnight into Saturday, that cold front will move through and the colder air mass comes back in again from the west and the northwest. It's a story of showers once again across western mountains all the way from Wales to Scotland, with snow and hail and the risk of thunder in there at times. Best chance for staying dry is across more eastern regions, fewer showers towards the Cairngorms, and again higher cloud bases, but it'll be a windy day, the risk of strong to gale force winds pretty widely. There is some difficulty with the exact details, just what happens to that front as it goes through on Saturday and what then goes on into Sunday. This chart may not quite have the whole story. It tries to see low pressure out over the North Sea and southern Scandinavia. It's got something of a complex system towards Biscay, which we'll show you on another chart in a moment, may have a role to play, and it's trying to just encroach milder air back in from the Atlantic, coming in around the area of high pressure centred to the southwest of us. I think the idea for Sunday is still a cold one. There'll be some snow showers around and could locally be some areas of quite frequent snow. Now, we're always looking at various computer models when we're trying to put together the forecasts, and when they start to disagree slightly, especially at longer range, we have lower confidence in what we can say. And this is one of the other models for Sunday, just zooming out to look at the bigger picture. And what it does is make a bit more of that scope for low pressure around northern France, and could be something of a wraparound of a front that had tried to go through on Saturday that gets stuck and is slower to clear, and could just bring colder conditions and the risk of more extensive snowfall more widely into the picture, even into the Pennines and Wales, if that is just wrapped around that low. Before anything milder tries then to come in from the Atlantic. So Sunday is a tricky one. I think Saturday is pretty more straightforward as showers coming in from the west. Sunday, it's almost what's left of that sort of system, which makes things rather tricky. The idea beyond that into the start of next week is that pressure tries to build. That low that was around in the northern parts of France sinks away towards Iberia. It draws in a pretty cold northeasterly air mass across northern Europe. We're trying to pull something milder back in from the Atlantic, particularly towards Scotland, although it could just be more England and Wales, for example, stay under a colder air mass that was still just around from previous days, whilst northwest Scotland could see something milder trying to get in on a southwesterly wind. But under higher pressure, you're looking at largely dry conditions, just if any fronts get into western Scotland that could complicate things there. And the general trend into next week is that rather a battleground taking place. That's the week as a whole, the pressure anomalies for 7 days. And what we're seeing really is high pressure centred out toward the west of us. We've got high pressure still in existence around polar regions, as we've said in recent videos. We've also got low pressure around the Mediterranean, and we've got low pressure over northern Canada and towards Greenland. Now what that's doing is trying to push the jet stream across the North Atlantic. It's trying to usher some cold air around the northern side of that high, originating from northern Canada and Greenland towards us. But we've also got that idea of a northeasterly wind across continental Europe, and that sort of no man's land towards Scandinavia is the awkward bit as to where the pressure patterns will go to as we go further forward. So not easy to get the absolute detail for the week as a whole. I think the overriding message is still a chilly one. It might go a little bit back and forth. Quite where high pressure builds and then where the air mass comes in from later in the week is open to question. We'll hope to try and flesh out those details a bit more on the next planning video issued on Friday. But for today, thanks for watching. Bye for now.